Hello, this is a video for school. In this video we'll be analyzing the differences between the book. Well, I'm going to mainly focus on one difference, but I'll get to that in a second. One of the books I will be comparing and contrasting is called The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick. And he, from what I can gather, he seems to be a pretty popular science fiction writer. A few of his books have been even made into movies. The Man in the High Castle was even a TV show. And the other book is called How Few Remain, and it's part of a series called Southern Victory. The writer, Harry Turtledove, he only really seems popular within the alternative history genre, of which both these books are part of. But he has won a few awards for his works, but he isn't super mainstream. Anyway, I want to say that I think that How Few Remain is a good book and a good alternate fiction history novel. And The Man in the High Castle, it just isn't. It's not good. And I think there's a lot of similarities. I'll start off with the similarities. And the main similarities are, of course, they are both set in alternate histories. The Man in the High Castle focuses on things such as America after World War II. Germany has won World War II, and so has Japan and all the other Axis powers. We don't really know much. We know everything takes place in either Japan or part of America that's technically neutral, but it's kind of a puppet government of Japan. It's kind of confusing. But America's been split down the middle, basically, with a neutral zone in between German and Japanese occupied zones. Germany seems to rule like most of the world besides like Japan, Asia, and Italy's around, but it sounds like from one line of dialogue in the book, it sounds like it didn't succeed in the plans that Mussolini had to make a new Roman Empire. Anyway, so it takes place in Japanese-occupied America, and that's a good. It's kind of a science fiction as well. It's got elements of like Germany has developed rocket technology that can fly all the way around the world. This is like even before people in our universe or whatever had developed rockets, so the idea is kind of they're more advanced. They've also started the colonization of other worlds in the galaxy. They've landed people on Mars. That's really all we really learn about the world, and I think that's one of the main problems with it. But we'll get to that in a minute after I start talking about How Few Remain. It is also an alternate history, and it focuses on what if the Confederacy won the Civil War and it received support from other nations like Britain and France. And throughout the book, we follow a cast of characters, just like in How Few Remain, and they go through the motions of another war happening between the North and the South. But this time the South is supported by Britain and France, and they end up winning easily, and that sets up the next book in the series, but I haven't read it yet. Anyway, so the main difference... No, I'm talking about similarities. Similarities are that they both have different sets of characters, cast of characters, and their narratives are switched from they're changed between during the book. One chapter it's a German general. The next it's Frederick Douglass, and he's like reporting from the front lines of the new war. And this also happens in The Man in the High Castle. And like there's a jeweler, and then the next chapter you're talking about a Japanese businessman. Another similarity, of course, as I've already said, they're both historical fiction. I mean, like alternate history fiction novels. And I feel like they both build on the same concept of, oh, what if this happened and everything changed. But one book is good, the other is not. Why is that? And I think the main difference that makes How Few Remain a better historical fiction than Man the High Castle is that it just has a better world and it's more explored and the cast is better. It's just the way, the methods that Harry Turtledove shows us his world compared to Philip K. Dick's methods of showing his world. Um, an example of this would be in The Man in the High Castle. It's not developed. It spends more time talking about a book, a fictional book within the universe, than it does talking about, oh, what's happening in Africa. They talk about Africa occasionally in like faint whispers, and that's the closest we get to like foreign countries. It's really only Japan and Germany that are talked about. Um, of course, taking place in America, it also discusses America post-war, but it's not really given much of a background. It's just like, oh, Japan and Germany split it down, and Germany's better, by the way. Japan kind of is technologically backwater. That's it. That's all we learn. In Southern Victory, however, we go through the story literally as things in this world happen. Um, we learn things such as, oh, the Confederacy's occupied Cuba. Here's how their infrastructure is. This is their plan to win the war. This is their plans for expansion. Here is their relations to other countries. America is mostly alone in the story, and it's obviously talked about frequently. It talks about slaves. It talks about free black men in the North. It's very well explored. It's very thorough. I never really felt like, oh, you didn't really mention that much. It was always just, oh, well, now I know more, and I'm really glad I do because it's interesting. And this is really what makes Southern Victory so much better. Well, How Few Remain, technically, so much better is that it's more in depth, it's more thorough, and it does a better job than it does more work than just vaguely hinting at something happening in another continent and then never talking about it again. I feel like one of the main issues that one of the causes of this issue is that the cast, the cast, they're all kind of the same, and I mean they're not the same, but they don't come from very different walks of life. There's one like spy, but he doesn't get much time throughout the book. And then everyone else is like a civilian, and they're mainly like working lower class, all from mostly from America, except for the spy and a Japanese businessman, but he doesn't really have much more means beyond any of the other characters. And so throughout the story, as they go through their daily living, it's just the same. It feels the same as it would be for another character. Oh, I went to this place and then I did a thing there, and then you'll get to another character and it will be like, oh, I went to this place and the same thing there. There's no differences. There's not enough differences between their lifestyles to properly show off the world. Meanwhile, in How Few Remain, one person's a general in the army, the other is just a foot soldier. There's Frederick Douglass. He's a journalist in this world. They follow a politician who's like making new inroads in the country. There's all sorts of people from different walks of life, and they go to different places over the country. The Man in the High Castle is mainly stuck in like California. Meanwhile, oh, they're in Utah and they're putting down a Mormon rebellion in How Few Remain, or uh, they're in Kentucky and they're fighting the big battle of the war, or they're on the Great Plains to fight an Indian uprising against the the Confederate States of America. Um, this this just ruins how the Man in the High Castle, and it's just not interesting. The characters, they aren't. It's because there is no good supportive world for the man in the high castle. It really has to focus on the writing. And how good is the writing? It's not very good. I don't want to insult Philip K. Dick, but I don't. His writing is confusing and it's uninteresting, and it seems to constantly try and be in the foreground compared to the world, and it takes front and center. And the stories of the characters are generally pretty dull. It's just like events happen, and most of the events are just kind of them talking to other people, and by the end of it, you just kind of go, "Oh, what was the point of that?" And because of this, of course, um, because there's no good world and the focus lies on the story, and the story isn't very good, it's not a good book. And I feel like How Few Remain is both a better story and a better history novel, alternate history novel, because it can focus on the world, and there's also a story in there, and the story is good, and the story knows when to become important, and it knows when to take a backdrop to world building. Again, I just feel like I'm repeating myself, so I'm gonna start ending the video. Thank you for listening to this. Hopefully it's good. The comparison and contrasting was mainly focused on one thing, but hopefully I gave some good examples of why I think How Few Remain is much better than The Man in the High Castle. That's really it, and goodbye.